If there hadn't been a camera, no one would have believed what the dog did to the baby. The Nashville City Council chamber fell silent as Officer Jackson Mitchell stood at the podium, his once steady police hands trembling slightly. Beside him, his German Shepherd Hunter sat tall and alert, faint scars tracing his flank, reminders of a violent past that refused to fade. The council members leaned forward, eyes narrowed with skepticism. As the large screen behind them flickered to life, gasps rippled through the room. The footage showed Hunter standing over a crib, his mouth hovering dangerously close to the tiny, sleeping face of 3-month-old Ethan Mitchell. Jackson paused the video at that damning moment, the frame frozen in time like a crime scene. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice steady but his knuckles white against the podium, "this is where most people would condemn my dog." From the back row, an elderly man removed his oxygen tube, struggling to stand. Beside him, a gray-haired woman clutched medical papers to her chest, tears streaming freely. "This dog didn't attack my son," Jackson continued, his voice breaking just enough for the audience to feel it. "He saved his life and then my father's too. Today I'm here to save his." The room held its breath. 3 months earlier, sunlight spilled through the kitchen windows of the Mitchell home in suburban Nashville, warming the hardwood floor where Hunter lay stretched out, his intelligent eyes tracking every move of Madison Maddie Mitchell as she prepared breakfast. In her arms, baby Ethan stirred, pink-cheeked and fragile after being born 6 weeks premature. Maddie's movements were careful, almost rigid, as though the slightest misstep could shatter the tiny miracle she cradled. Hunter hadn't taken his eyes off the baby since they'd brought him home. "I don't like how he's staring," Maddie whispered to her husband. The frown lines between her brows had become permanent fixtures in recent months. "He's just protective," Jackson replied gently, pouring coffee. "That's what he's trained for." At 35, Jackson carried himself like a man at war with stillness. Once a decorated K-9 officer, he now spent his days behind a desk, a punishment disguised as reassignment after an explosion ended both his and Hunter's careers 18 months ago. He still walked with a limp. Hunter, too, bore scars that told their own story. Across town, Walter Mitchell, Jackson's 75-year-old father, adjusted his oxygen tube inside his small apartment at Riverside Senior Living. Once a proud Vietnam veteran, he now lived alone among fading photographs and quiet regrets. His favorite picture showed a younger version of himself, uniform crisp, a German shepherd at his side. Different war, same loyalty. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Eleanor Campbell, Maddie's mother, organized her daughter's pantry with the precision of a retired school teacher. Since losing her husband to Alzheimer's, she'd poured all her care and control into Maddie and Ethan. Large dogs made her uneasy, though she never admitted why. Instead, she claimed to be allergic. Some fears hide behind tidy excuses. That night, sleep proved impossible. Hunter paced outside the nursery, nails clicking against the wood floor, his body tense. Maddie jolted awake every few minutes, straining to hear Ethan's soft breaths through the monitor. At 2 a.m., Hunter's low whine broke the silence. "I'll check on him," Jackson mumbled, rubbing his eyes as he swung out of bed. But before he could stop him, Hunter slipped into the nursery and placed his paws on the crib rail. His ears stood erect, head tilted, alert, focused. "Come here, boy," Jackson whispered, patting his thigh. Hunter didn't move. It was the first time in 7 years that the dog disobeyed a direct command. By morning, exhaustion had turned into tension. "He barked at the monitor 3 times, Maddie said sharply, rocking Ethan. "He barely slept." "He's just adjusting," Jackson replied, though his hands trembled slightly as he poured coffee. "Hunter protected me for years, Maddie. Trust him." She said nothing, her silence heavy with worry. Her once steady confidence as a pediatric nurse had been replaced by postpartum fatigue and fear she couldn't name. Eleanor arrived that weekend with 3 suitcases and opinions equally heavy. Standing in the kitchen, arms crossed, she said flatly, "Have you seen the statistics on dog attacks, Jackson? Especially from high-prey breeds like German Shepherds." "He's not just any dog," Jackson countered, jaw tight. "He's trained, he's family. And how many babies did he protect during those raids?" Eleanor's tone softened as she adjusted Ethan in her arms, subtly shielding him from Hunter's gaze. That night, Ethan's cries echoed down the hall. Hunter's pacing grew frantic. When his scratching at the nursery door woke everyone, Jackson opened it, and Hunter bolted straight to the crib. "Jackson," Eleanor hissed, but Hunter wasn't growling. He was whining softly, his nose hovering inches above the baby. Maddie appeared, panic in her eyes. "Get him away!" Jackson called him back. Hunter didn't move. Jackson had to physically pull him away, something he'd never done before. By morning, their fragile peace shattered. Maddie's face was pale with anger. He had his mouth open over our baby's face, Jackson. How can you defend that? Let me check the camera footage, he pleaded. We might be missing something. Camera footage? Eleanor snapped. You don't need technology to see what's right in front of you. That night, after Maddie took Ethan to her mother's, Jackson sat alone on the nursery floor. Hunter rested his head on his lap, eyes sorrowful, confused. The silence was unbearable. What were you trying to tell us, boy? Jackson whispered. He opened the camera feed. Fast forward, rewind, pause, then he saw it. Just before Hunter jumped up, Ethan's tiny chest had stopped moving. For 15 agonizing seconds, no rise, no fall. The baby wasn't breathing. Oh my God, Jackson whispered. He scrolled back through days of footage, each time the same. Ethan's breathing would falter, and Hunter would react. Hunter hadn't been attacking, he had been saving. By dawn, Jackson called Maddie. You need to see this. When she arrived, he showed her the evidence. Hunter alerting, Ethan not breathing. Over and over. Maddie's eyes filled with tears. He wasn't hurting him, she whispered. He was trying to make him breathe. Doctors confirmed it days later. Infant sleep apnea. The baby's condition was real and dangerous. Hunter had sensed it long before any machine could. How did your dog know? The specialist asked. Because he's trained to protect, Jackson replied softly. That night, Hunter received a steak dinner and a whispered apology from Maddie. Thank you, she said, resting her hand on his head. For the first time, he wagged his tail gently. Forgiveness in motion. The family's fear had turned into awe. The dog they'd once doubted had proven himself a hero, but beyond their walls, judgment still loomed, and a city full of strangers was ready to decide whether Hunter deserved to stay. Sometimes, it takes one act of unexpected kindness to silence 100 voices of doubt. For Jackson Mitchell, that kindness came from the last person he ever thought would stand beside him. The summer heat pressed over the small Tennessee town, carrying with it the restless hum of arguments that never seemed to end. Parents worried aloud at the playground, neighbors whispered at fences, and Jackson could feel the judgment wherever he went. Whispers about his German shepherd. Hunter, that dog's dangerous, someone would mutter. It's only a matter of time, said another. He'd learned to swallow the bitterness to stay calm. But that day, as the town meeting grew heated, his patience began to fray. Then Marcus Daniels, his former partner and until recently, one of the loudest voices against him, rose from the back of the room. Before we start villainizing specific animals, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the noise with quiet authority, let's remember that responsibility lies with the owner, not the breed. I've worked with German shepherds for years. Training shapes behavior and not DNA, the crowd murmured. Jackson froze, half convinced he'd misheard. Marcus defending him? When the meeting ended, Jackson approached him, still dazed. Didn't expect that, he said quietly. Marcus shrugged, avoiding his gaze. I looked into the numbers. Turns out the stats don't support those bans. They just make good politics. It wasn't friendship. Not yet, but it was a crack of light in a wall of hostility. Yet while the community softened, the medical world grew colder. Dr. Reynolds, the pediatrician assigned to baby Ethan, continued to dismiss their concerns. You're being overly cautious, he said during one visit, waving a hand at the monitoring equipment. I've seen hundreds of infants like him. He'll grow out of it. Maddie, calm but firm, folded her arms. With respect, doctor, our specialist confirmed it's apnea, not just periodic breathing. The treatment is working, that proves the diagnosis. Reynolds smiled without warmth. New parents often mistake peace of mind for medicine, but if this helps you sleep, we'll continue. Outside, Jackson muttered, something's off with him. Has been since day one. Maddie said nothing, but her silence agreed. Then, one Sunday dinner changed everything. Walter had joined them, talking easily about his Vietnam days when he mentioned something that made the air stop moving. German shepherds served beside us, Walter said, reaching down to pat Hunter's head. Best partners a soldier could ask for. One even saved my platoon from an ambush. The handler's name was Campbell. Any relation, Eleanor? The sound of shattering glass filled the room. Eleanor's hand shook as water pooled across the table. Michael Campbell, she whispered. He was my husband's cousin. He died in '69. Walter's face fell. I'm sorry, I didn't mean, it's not that, Eleanor interrupted, her voice trembling. My husband John was there too. He was bitten by a military dog during training, got infected. Sepsis nearly killed him. And years later, when the Alzheimer's began, doctors said the infection site showed unusual damage. They never proved a link, but she looked down, her voice breaking. I've blamed dogs ever since. Jackson's voice was soft, especially German shepherds. Eleanor nodded, eyes glassy. They all look the same to me, just like the one that hurt him. For the first time, Jackson understood. Her hatred hadn't come from ignorance, but from heartbreak. As May bled into June, Ethan's apnea episodes grew rarer, but each one still carried danger. Hunter never missed a single warning. Often he'd alert seconds before the monitor even beeped. Jackson began recording every incident. Videos, timestamps, notes, a collection of evidence that told a story no one could deny. A local reporter soon heard about it. "Would you share your story?" she asked. "It could help people understand how service dogs save lives." Jackson hesitated. "I'll talk to my wife," he said. But fate didn't wait for his answer. That weekend, Walter collapsed. It started small. Hunter whining at his side, nudging his leg, restless. Walter brushed him off. Then came the sharp gasp, the stumble, the hand clutching at his chest. "Dad!" Jackson was there in seconds. "I'm fine," Walter tried to say, but his breath broke apart. Hunter barked, once, twice, sharp and insistent. The same alert pattern he used for Ethan. "Emergency room. Now!" Jackson ordered, grabbing his father's arm. Minutes later, the hospital confirmed what the dog already knew. Early congestive heart failure. "You came just in time," the doctor said. "If you'd waited." Walter stared at Hunter, disbelief in his tired eyes. "Guess I owe this mutt my life, too." The story spread fast. "Service dog saves infant and veteran." Read the Nashville Tribune headline. Cameras followed Jackson now. Strangers waved in grocery aisles, and Dr. Reynolds glared colder than ever. "I see you've gone public," he said at the next appointment, voice tight. "A dramatic interpretation of events, don't you think?" "The article states facts," Jackson replied evenly. "Hunter saved them both." Reynolds tapped his pen sharply. "I'd be careful, Officer Mitchell. Publicity cuts both ways. One mistake, one incident, and that dog's not a hero anymore." On the drive home, Maddie whispered, "He meant that." "There's history between you two." "I know," Jackson said quietly, "and I'm going to find out what it is." That night, Eleanor called. "I found something you should see," she said softly. The next morning, she brought a faded photo. A soldier in fatigues kneeling beside a German shepherd, jungle behind him. "This was John," she said. 1969. The dog warned them of an ambush, saved his life that day. Her eyes shimmered with tears. "I spent decades blaming dogs for taking him, but before that infection, a dog just like Hunter saved him." As Hunter gently rested his head in her trembling hands, something broke open inside the old woman. Not pain this time, but release. For the first time in years, her fear had met forgiveness. Sometimes destiny doesn't whisper. It roars through chaos, demanding to be heard. And that day, Jackson Mitchell heard it loud and clear. After what happened with Walter and Hunter's haunting reaction that no one could quite explain, the city council delayed their final vote on the service animal restrictions. Pending further investigation, they'd said. A small victory perhaps, but Jackson barely registered it. His thoughts were consumed by fear and exhaustion when the cardiologist walked in, his face tight with concern. "The news isn't good," the doctor began. Walter had suffered a major heart attack, made worse by his already fragile heart condition. The words treatment options and quality of life echoed like thunder in Jackson's mind. He tried to listen, but his pulse drowned out the rest. "We've stabilized him for now," the doctor explained gently, "but he'll need comprehensive cardiac care. I'm recommending a transfer to Vanderbilt Medical Center once he's strong enough to travel." Jackson nodded numbly, every muscle trembling with restrained panic. Moments later, Eleanor arrived, her face pale, streaked with dried tears, the ears etched deeper by worry. Through the glass of the ICU, she stared at Walter's motionless form, her voice breaking. "I should have noticed sooner," she whispered. He was short of breath all morning. Hunter knew Jackson. He stayed beside him the entire time. Jackson wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "None of us could have known." Her eyes flickered toward him, weary, certain. "Your dog knew." Hours passed like slow-moving ghosts. Jackson called Maddie between updates, clinging to her voice as his last thread of normalcy. During one call, her tone shifted sharply. "Hunter's acting strange," she said. "He's pacing, whining. He won't leave Ethan's side, and now he's barking at nothing." "Jackson, I've never seen him like this." A chill crept down Jackson's spine. "Check the baby." "Right now." Rustling. Silence. Then Maddie's gasp cut through the line like a knife. "Oh God, Jackson. He's not breathing right. His lips are turning blue." "Call 911, Jackson shouted, already running down the hall. "I'm coming home." The hospital staff tried to stop him, but his voice thundered through the corridor. "My son's in trouble. My father's stable. I need to go." Outside, he leapt into the first taxi he saw. "Triple the fare if you break every law getting there." The driver didn't hesitate. 15 minutes later, Jackson burst through his front door to a scene that seared into his soul forever. Paramedics hovered over baby Ethan, attaching oxygen lines. Maddie stood frozen, tears streaking down her face, holding Hunter's collar as the dog whined and trembled beside them. "Severe apnea episode," one paramedic said tersely. "Oxygen at 78% when we arrived." Jackson's gaze snapped to the infant monitor. Silent, lifeless, its power light off. "It didn't alarm," Maddie whispered. "It wasn't working. I checked it this morning." Jackson picked it up. Corrosion on the battery contacts, the cable unplugged. His heart sank. "This wasn't an accident. We're taking him to the hospital," said the medic. "Vanderbilt," Jackson ordered. My father's already there. As they loaded Ethan into the ambulance, Jackson made a split-second decision. The dog comes too. He sensed this before the monitor did. The paramedic hesitated, then nodded. Fine, but he's your responsibility. Hunter jumped in without command, lying beside Ethan's stretcher, calm, protective, eyes locked on the child's face. At Vanderbilt, the emergency team worked with precision. Oxygen, monitors, needles, beeping machines. Slowly, Ethan's tiny chest began to rise normally again, color returning to his cheeks. Dr. Chen, their sleep specialist, arrived in a rush. What happened? The monitor failed, Jackson said grimly. Her eyes darkened. This episode was severe, far worse than before. We'll need a full neurological assessment. Then a voice drifted from the hallway, smooth, too calm. I'm Ethan's pediatrician. I should be involved. Dr. Reynolds. Jackson's gut twisted. The doctor stopped short upon seeing him. Officer Mitchell, he said smoothly. I heard what happened. I'm sorry about your son. Something in his tone, too polished, too rehearsed, set every alarm off in Jackson's mind, and Hunter felt it too. A low growl rumbled deep in his chest. Control your dog, Reynolds snapped, stepping back. But Hunter didn't move. His ears pricked forward, gaze fixed on the doctor like a predator tracking prey. Jackson's voice hardened. Hunter, heel. The growl quieted, but Jackson's mind raced. The failed monitor. Reynolds' arrival, Hunter's reaction. The puzzle pieces clicked into place, and what they formed was terrifying. Dr. Reynolds, Jackson said carefully. Did you know the monitor would fail today? Reynolds flinched, just slightly. What? That's absurd. Is it? Jackson stepped closer. You've downplayed Ethan's condition. Opposed Hunter. Spoke against us at the council meeting. That's quite a pattern. Before Reynolds could respond, a nurse entered. Doctor, someone's asking for you at the nurse's station. Says he works with you. Jackson followed him into the hall. Standing there was Marcus Daniels, Jackson's former partner. Still in uniform. Marcus? Jackson said, confused. What are you doing here? Marcus looked like a man drowning. It's about the monitor, he blurted. And the medication. Reynolds' expression darkened. Don't, but it was too late. The truth came spilling out. Fast, messy, horrifying. Reynolds had manipulated Marcus, fed him lies about proving Hunter unreliable, tampered with Walter's medication to trigger a cardiac episode, sabotaged Ethan's monitor to fail at the worst possible moment. All to discredit the dog that had humiliated him. Hunter lunged as Reynolds made a break for the stairwell, taking him down with flawless precision, just like the hero he'd always been. That day, the world learned what Jackson already knew. Machines can malfunction, but loyalty, pure, instinctive, unbreakable, never does. A hospital on edge, 2 lives hanging by a thread, and a dog who saw what no doctor did. Hunter stood at the edge of Ethan's hospital crib, his front paws balanced carefully, ears alert, eyes fixed on the baby's pale face. A soft alarm pulsed from the monitor. Then another, sharper one. What's happening? Jackson rushed forward, his heart pounding. His oxygen levels dropped again, Eleanor said, her voice tight with fear. The nurse hurriedly adjusted the equipment. Hunter alerted first again, she added, glancing at the German shepherd who hadn't moved from his post all night. Moments later, the pediatric neurologist arrived, flipping through Ethan's chart with a frown. We may need to consider a more aggressive treatment approach, he said gravely. These recurring episodes suggest the underlying condition is more complex than we initially diagnosed, or more deliberately overlooked, Maddie murmured bitterly. The specialist paused, compassion flickering across his face. Either way, we need to address it now. I'm recommending a temporary breathing support system while we adjust his medication. When they fitted the small mask over Ethan's face, it looked enormous against his tiny features. Jackson watched every fragile breath his son took, each one a reminder of how precious and fragile life could be, and how easily it could be threatened by those entrusted to protect it. That night, with Walter stabilized and Ethan carefully monitored, Jackson slipped into the dim hospital chapel. The silence broke him open. Alone beneath the flickering candles, he let the tears fall, for his father's pain, for his son's struggle, for the betrayal by those he had trusted, and for the system that had failed them all. Eleanor found him there, eyes red-rimmed, exhaustion etched into every line of her face. I keep thinking about how close we came to losing them both, she whispered, sitting beside him. And how it would have been partly my fault. That's not true, Jackson said quickly. Isn't it? She asked, voice trembling. I was the loudest voice against Hunter. If you'd listened to me, if you'd sent him away. She couldn't finish. Silence filled the chapel, heavy, sacred. John would have loved Hunter, Eleanor said finally, her voice softening. He always said his cousin's military dog was the smartest creature he'd ever met. I let fear cloud that memory. Let it poison how I saw all dogs, especially ones like Hunter. Jackson reached for her hand. We all have our blind spots, Eleanor. By dawn, sunlight filtered through the hospital windows, warm and golden, a fragile kind of hope. Both Walter and Ethan had improved overnight. Walter's condition was upgraded from serious to stable. Ethan's new medication worked. No more apnea episodes. Hunter remained on constant watch, resting beside Ethan's crib but always alert. The staff had quietly stopped enforcing the no animals policy. Everyone knew now, this dog wasn't just family, he was their guardian. Outside, the media had caught the story. Headlines ranged from dog exposes doctor's revenge plot to four-legged hero saves family twice. Cameras gathered at the entrance, waiting for updates on the Mitchells and their remarkable German shepherd. Even the police department issued a statement distancing itself from Marcus Daniels' actions while acknowledging a commitment to transparency and justice. The embarrassment was thinly veiled. By afternoon, Walter insisted on visiting Ethan. Against medical advice, he was wheeled down the hallway, oxygen tank in tow. Stubborn as always, Jackson muttered. Smiling faintly. Got to see my grandson, Walter rasped, his voice weak but steady. And thank that dog properly. Hunter approached cautiously, sniffed at the oxygen tube, then rested his head gently on Walter's knee. The old man's hand trembled as he stroked Hunter's fur. Good boy, he whispered. You did good. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. In that single quiet moment, Walter in his wheelchair, Ethan in his crib, Maddie and Jackson standing close, and Hunter keeping silent vigil. A hospital photographer captured a candid shot through the glass. Days later, that photo would appear on the front page of the Nashville Tribune. Under the headline, "The Dog Who Saw What Doctors Missed," it became a symbol of faith, a family, of second chances. But the photograph did more than move hearts. It ignited a movement. Within weeks, 7 other families stepped forward, their stories hauntingly similar. Each had been under Dr. Reynolds' care. Each case hinted at something darker, a deliberate vendetta against families linked to law enforcement. For now, though, the Mitchells didn't think of justice or politics. They thought of healing. As night fell, Jackson watched his son breathe easily, Walter sleeping peacefully nearby, and Hunter curled between them like a sentry who'd finally earned a moment's rest. Eleanor's voice broke the silence. If there wasn't a camera, she said softly, no one would believe what this dog did. Walter smiled faintly. They'd believe it, he said, if they knew him like we do. Sometimes the greatest heroes don't wear badges or capes. They walk on 4 legs, with quiet eyes that see what humans cannot. Walter's recovery was slow and often frustrating. You've got enough to handle with Ethan, he grumbled, irritation slipping through as he struggled through his daily therapy. Your family, Dad, Jackson replied firmly, helping him steady his balance. We take care of our own. Eleanor, who had been quietly watching from the doorway, stepped forward. Walter Mitchell, stop feeling sorry for yourself, she said, her tone brisk but kind. None of us get through this life alone. Your son learned that from you. Now it's your turn to learn it from him. That unexpected alliance between Eleanor and Walter, 2 proud, independent souls, became one of the quiet blessings of their ordeal. Where once they had merely tolerated each other as in-laws, a genuine friendship began to form, built on shared love for their children, their grandson, and a newfound respect for Hunter. I've been thinking, Eleanor admitted one afternoon as they watched Hunter making his usual rounds, checking on both Walter and Ethan, about getting a small dog for my apartment. Just for company, Walter raised an eyebrow. Eleanor Campbell considering a dog? The world really is changing. Meanwhile, Jackson compiled months of footage, comparing Hunter's alerts to the medical equipment's responses. With Dr. Chen's help, they documented every instance Hunter detected physiological changes before the machines did. This could change how we approach pediatric sleep apnea monitoring, Dr. Chen said in awe. The implications for medical service animals are extraordinary. A week later, with both Walter and Ethan finally stable, the Mitchell family attended the emergency city council session on breed-specific legislation. The chamber was packed, reporters, animal advocates, and medical professionals filling every seat. Television cameras lined the back wall. Hunter, wearing his retired police K9 vest, sat poised beside Jackson's chair as the council president called the meeting to order. We've convened this special session to reconsider Ordinance 2024-117, President Harrington began, his political polish barely concealing his awareness of the cameras. We'll begin with testimony from Officer Jackson Mitchell and his family. Jackson approached the podium, Hunter at his side. He had no notes, no speech. Just the truth. 3 months ago, I installed cameras in my son's nursery to prove my dog wasn't a threat, he began, his voice steady but heavy with emotion. Today, I'm sharing that footage because it shows something remarkable. A German shepherd detecting life-threatening medical conditions before our most advanced equipment could. The chamber fell silent as the screen flickered to life, showing Hunter alerting to Ethan's apnea episodes, Walter's cardiac distress, and finally, Dr. Reynolds' attempted escape. Gasps filled the room. When the footage ended, Jackson spoke again. If there wasn't a camera, None of you would believe this story. You'd call him dangerous based on his breed, not his behavior. But this dog, this breed you tried to restrict, saved my son and my father when every human system failed them. He gestured toward Hunter, who sat perfectly still, unshaken by the applause that rippled through the room. Your legislation would have removed him from our home. How many other families might lose their protectors because of fear disguised as safety? Maddie approached next, holding Ethan. Walter rolled forward in his wheelchair, Eleanor at his side. 3 generations stood together, united, proud, and protected by a dog who had saved them all. My mother used to say God works in mysterious ways, Eleanor began softly. I believe Hunter came into our lives for a reason, not once but many times over. I was wrong about him. Wrong about his breed. Wrong to let fear replace reason. Walter's voice followed, steady and deep. I've lived long enough to see plenty of bad laws passed with good intentions, he said. This would have been one of them. You can't legislate safety by judging appearances. You have to look deeper, at training, at heart, at behavior. The same way we should with people. Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. The council president banged his gavel for order. When quiet returned, he spoke with visible emotion. In light of this testimony, he announced, we move to suspend Ordinance 2024-117 indefinitely and establish a committee focused on responsible ownership based on behavior, not breed. The motion passed unanimously. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions. One asked, Officer Mitchell, do you think this will change how people see German Shepherds? Jackson paused, then smiled faintly. I hope it changes how people see all living beings. That character can't be measured by appearance or genetics. Hunter taught us to look deeper. Outside, sunlight spilled across the steps as the family exited the building. Eleanor knelt beside Hunter and whispered, Thank you, old boy. For showing this old woman she still had things to learn. Hunter leaned gently into her hand, a silent acknowledgement of forgiveness and understanding. Months passed. Seasons changed. Ethan grew stronger, crawling across the floor with laughter that filled the Mitchell home. Walter moved into the guest house, proud but grateful for the nearness of family. And Hunter remained the quiet guardian, alert, steadfast, and endlessly loyal. That December, the city honored Hunter with a key to Nashville and a Medal of Valor. The ceremony also launched the Nashville Medical Alert K9 program, inspired by Hunter's abilities. Jackson now led the initiative, training dogs to save lives, not chase criminals. The Nashville Tribune headline the next day read, City honors dog who saved a family and changed medicine forever. Beneath it, a photograph captured the family smiling, Ethan in Maddie's arms, Walter and Eleanor side by side, Hunter sitting proudly at their feet. On Christmas Eve, snow blanketed the city. Inside, warmth filled the living room as the family gathered by the fire. Hunter lay near the hearth, his watchful eyes soft with peace. Jackson watched them all, his heart full. I've been thinking, he said quietly, about starting a foundation to help families afford medical alert dogs. Walter smiled. Call it the Hunter Foundation. Has a nice ring to it. Eleanor nodded. I'll help raise funds, she said eagerly. As they talked, Hunter rose and patted to Ethan's side, nudging his tiny hand. The baby giggled. No alert, just love. Maddie smiled softly. Sometimes, she said, he's just being a dog who loves his family. Walter's voice, rough but warm, added, and sometimes that's miracle enough. Later that night, Jackson checked the security feed one last time. Each room peaceful, each heartbeat steady. And on the screen, Hunter lifted his head, looking directly into the camera as if to say, I'm still watching. Outside, snow fell gently over Nashville, a world forever changed by a dog who taught them all to look beyond fear and see with open hearts.